Chapter 8 Fallen Hermit of the Lake. World of Halavan. The Hashmalim Watcher, known as Hoyles, oversees the devastation caused by the Sakari with sadness. Unable to directly interfere, many human lives were lost. The city of his student Enkidu was among those hardest hit. Watching as Kataltahuk tries to reclaim their lives from the wreckage, Hoyles knows their journey will be one most difficult. "What do you see?" asked Frail, third seat of the 6th Choir. He and his unit were sent to Halavan for a status report on the situation with the Sakari on Kishar. "Have the humans staved off the Sakari attack?" Hoyles nods. "No thanks to us. Had we intervened, we could have saved thousands of lives." "That is not our place," Frail replies. "Humanity must protect themselves if they are to survive. We are only to give them the means, not direct assistance. If they cannot stand on their own, a new species will move in to fill the void. Such is the natural order. The Sakari are from another world. They are not part of the natural order. Averno and Kishar were once connected. The Sakari and humanity are cousin species. Their fates are intertwined. Choosing one to support over the other breaks numerous rules. That choice was made for us when the Grigori, like Cedrion and Gudril, aligned themselves with the Sakari. The invasion of the human world could never have been preceded without their assistance," Hoyles argues. "Those traitors will be dealt with," Frail growls. "We have been aware of their dealings for some time now, but they were always able to evade our units." "They are too much for you to handle. Cedrion may be classified as a captain, but his fighting ability is more in line with that of one of the Arche." Frail is insulted. "He has a lot of experience running and hiding. I will show him the difference between a coward and a warrior." "It would be foolish to face him yourself. Cedrion has already murdered many of those sent to arrest him." "The Grigori are none of your concern. Your only duty is to report to us the instant you come across them in the human world." "What about the damage done by the Sakari?" "What about it? The humans know how to build cities and plant fields. Enough of them will be able to survive." "The population will bottleneck," Hoyle shouts. "The humans will be plagued by disease and mutations without a diverse genetic sampling. If only a few humans survive, the entire species will still be at high risk for future extinction." Frail shrugs. He does not care what happens to the humans. They will survive, or they will not. Neither is my concern. With that, the Yazata depart, to leave the Watcher alone, once again in his task. Always watching, never interacting. This is the way of the Hashmalim. Earth, the Kishar realm. Lake Arpa, roughly 70 kilometers southeast of Kataltakuk. Enkidu, and the man calling himself Tidal, row across the large lake towards the small island resting in the center. At one time, the island was actually just a foothill resting along the eastern edge of the lake. According to Tidal, the lake was dammed upon the request of a rogue Yazata to keep himself isolated from humanity. Due to this action, the waters that normally flowed from Arpa flooded the surrounding area and stopped feeding into the local rivers and streams. This has caused a water shortage for all of the surrounding villages. "Do you not care about the thousands of people affected by the damming of the lake?" Enkidu asks. "A massive drought will result from the rivers being unable to flow freely from Arpa." "The people around here have never cared about me," Tidal says. His teeth are yellowed and rotten. Enkidu tries not to gag from the horrid smell of the man. It is a smell so powerful that it causes bile to rise in Enkidu's throat and tears to form in his eyes. "For years, I slept on the streets of Tug, hungry and alone. I had no job, no food, no shelter, and no one that cared whether I lived or died. They looked at me with disgust, when they even looked at me at all. Your anger is not a justification for murdering innocent people. Only the Creator can cure the darkness of our hearts. Your God was nowhere to be seen when I was suffering and needed help. Speaking with Zyle has only further clarified my understanding of this almighty God you love so much. He has nothing but complete apathy for us mortals and our struggles. God does not care whether we live in squalor or in complete lavishness. To him, we are all insignificant. That is blasphemy, Enkidu growls. I should take your head for saying such things. Yes, because that is what you priests do. You blindly follow your God and kill anyone who disagrees. Tell me again how you are any better than me. What you have done is not a simple disagreement. You curse God and kill people. You are a monster. The people of Tug are not who you think they are. They're selfish and corrupt. If you knew their true nature, you would not want to save them either. The island nears, and Enkidu grips his sword nervously. If the owner of the island really is a Yazata, Enkidu is unsure if he would be able to win in a one-on-one battle. The Sakari were powerful, but he knows that the Yazata are on an entirely different level. Even one as insanely strong as Inyana is like an infant in power when compared to a Yazata. You are headed to your death anyways, priest, Tidal says. The master of the lake does not tolerate unwanted visitors. Just for bothering him, you will be sunk deep beneath the waters to rot with all the others. You have ferried many to their ends, haven't you? Enkidu asks with disgust. Tidal grins widely. I do my part. Zyle wishes not to be disturbed. Usually, I am able to keep most visitors away on my own. He stares down at the sword on Enkidu's lap. But you are different. I think he will want to speak to you after all. The people you have murdered will be repaid in blood, Enkidu growls. They sought help from one who is supposed to be a mediator for mankind. The Yazata were assigned with our development and protection. They should be nurturing mankind, not stealing their water and killing any who come to protest. Tidal shrugs. The Yazata have diverse personalities, just like us. Zyle is adamant about his solitude. Being disturbed is the easiest way to upset him. But it was not Zyle that killed most of the people coming to Lake Arpa, was it? Enkidu growls. The worms of Tug got what they deserved, Tidal says with hatred. None of them should be treated any differently. If I could, I would put the whole of that city at the bottom of the lake. You cannot hold an entire city responsible for the crimes of a few. Is that not how your God operates? He has raised entire civilizations on a whim. Nothing God does is on a whim, Enkidu says. If the city was destroyed, it was for good cause. You still do not understand the scope of Tug's sinful nature. It deserves total annihilation. That is not for you to decide, Enkidu says. If the Creator deems a city worth saving based upon a single soul, only he can make that call. If your God does not think Tug needs destroyed, his judgment cannot be trusted. They abuse and even sacrifice to the evil God the weak and the less fortunate. Had I not fled that city, I would have been fed to the flames of Mammon. Mammon? Enkidu questions. The gluttonous? Tidal nods. One and the same. His appetite has consumed Tug. You will find nothing there but despair. Enkidu pauses to think about his current plans. Should he continue to Tug, Not only will he not likely be able to find aid, he may be putting himself and Tarvin in danger. On the other hand, how trustworthy could this title be considered? He is a self-professed murderer and a constant blasphemer. Enkidu struggles with his decisions for the remainder of the ride across Arpa. In his gut, he knows that Tidal is wrong for killing the people, coming to the lake to beg Xyle to release their water. Despite what gods they worship or how they treat others, does the entire city of Tug deserve to be punished with a water shortage that could be so easily fixed as breaking a dam? Would Xyle and Tidal treat the people of Kataltakuk any differently were they the ones coming to Arpa to beg for water? Enkidu feels as though this issue goes beyond simple punishment for wrongs done to him. Tidal enjoys killing. One can speak all they want about injustices and abuse, but in the end, no matter how badly you're treated, you're never justified in returning evil for evil. Tidal is not killing out of self-defense or even war. The people Tidal murders most likely are not even the same people that wronged him, so it's not even revenge that motivates the man. Tug will have to answer for their own sins, but Tidal and Xyle will need to pay for theirs much sooner. Enkidu is prepared to do whatever needs to be done to ensure that the waters of Arpa are restored to their natural state, and that Tidal never again is allowed to kill another villager. "I do not think that you are telling me everything," Enkidu says. "You kill because you enjoy it. You do not believe in justice or any kind of righteousness." "Everyone from that vile city deserves to die," Tidal growls. "That is not for you to decide. Are those you drown the same as those who wronged you? You're issuing punishments to people removed from their crimes." "None of them helped me when I was in need," Tidal screams, stopping paddling. "As I lay dying in the streets of starvation, not one of them gave me any aid. The people of Tug would step over my body to attend their religious ceremonies. Even the children would giggle as they kicked and pissed on me. Damn that entire city to hell." "If you were so bad off, how were you then able to get away from Tug?" Enkidu questions, beginning to see holes in Tidal's story. He is unsure if the man has any intention of taking him to see Xyle, or just adding him to his list of victims. Tidal reaches into his tattered robes, tightly gripping his knife. He does not pull the weapon out, still hesitant of Enkidu. The man seems far too aware as he watches his movements. Should Tidal attempt anything, he might not be fast enough to kill Enkidu before the man can even draw his own sword. Tidal lets go of the knife and removes his empty hand from his robe. "One day, while I was at my very lowest, after being beaten and humiliated, I rose up and strangled to death the nearest man I saw. 2 others were nearby, and in their horror and shock did not flee. I fell upon them too, squeezing every last bit of life from their bodies. I stole all they had, including the first man's horse, and left Tug for the marshes. Eventually, I ate the horse, and ended up here at Lake Arpa." "And this Xyle was already here?" Tidal shakes his head. "No, Xyle has only been at Lake Arpa for 3 moons. I fled Tug over 10 years ago. The hut Xyle now dwells within was once mine. Before he dammed the lake, my hut was not on an island, but on a hill. When the lake flooded all of the nearby lands, Xyle became isolated. In return for access to the fish of Arpa and not having my own life taken, I kept all of the humans away from the lake so that they could not bother him. For fish and saving your own neck, you turned to stabbing desperate villagers and dumping their bodies into the lake," Enkidu says with disgust and anger. "You are the lowest kind of scum. Would you not do anything to save your own life? Is that not the default reaction of humans to that kind of situation? Do not fault me for my actions. Blame the Yazata that pushed me down such a dark path. Xyle will pay for his crimes. Enkidu growls. But so shall you. No one escapes their judgment. Even I will have to face God in shame for the misdeeds I have committed in my life. I judged the people of Tug for their evil, and I am a villain. You judge me for removing their stain from this world, and you are a hero? That does not make any sense. We are the same. We both wish to see evil extinguished from the world. Our actions are not comparable, and I will not pass judgment on you until the Creator has deemed it necessary. It may be that the task of judging you falls upon another. We will see how high and mighty you remain after meeting Zyle. His hatred of humanity is greater than even mine. I would wager that you do not survive Zyle long enough to judge me. Most likely your body will be sunk into the bottom of the lake to rot and feed the fish and the crabs like all who came before you. Enkidu is silent as Tidal begins to laugh and row once more towards the island. Yes, yes, Tidal cackles. The self-righteous warrior priest. Food for all the bottom-dwelling creatures of Arpa. Maybe I will fish your skull back out and use it to decorate the banks, as a warning to all who come to bother the Lord of the Lake in the future. Or perhaps I will survive this great Lake Lord and return your still squirming carcass back to Tug, Enkidu replies. I am sure the citizens of that city would love to get their hands on the vermin that stole away the lives of so many of their own. Tidal stops laughing and swallows hard. That will not happen. No human can ever best a Yazata in combat. Zyle will cut you down before you can even draw your blade. Enkidu draws Tiavan, holding it against Tidal's neck before he can even blink. Is that so? I believe I am quite fast myself. Tidal blinks in disbelief at Enkidu's speed. His eyes catch notice of the shining diamond steel of Tiavan. That weapon. Where did you get that? This sword is a family heirloom. It was passed to me from my father and his before him. Enkidu sheathes Tiavan, and after rubbing his neck for a few seconds, Tidal returns to paddling. You are not a normal warrior priest, Tidal mutters. Why do you have a sword like his? Because my sword was created by the Yazata, Enkidu grins. And Yazatan blades are the only ones that can cut down the Grigori. Tidal begins to question if instead of bringing this man to his death, if he is bringing to the island Zyle's executioner. He wonders if he really will be dragged back to Tug to pay for his crimes, or if the Lord of the Lake will be able to successfully fend off Enkidu's attacks. He knows his fate now relies upon how talented of a fighter Enkidu really is. Royal City of Narain, World of Averno. Returning to the court of King Marduk, the Grigori, Cedrion, and Gadriel plan for their next deception. Things did not go exactly as they had planned with the invasion of the human world. Whether it be due to Ymura turning on his sister, or the better-than-expected performance of the humans, the invasion was a failure. Having manipulated the Sicarii for so long, Marduk thinks nothing of the authenticity of their account of the failed conquest of humanity. No one survived? Marduk whispers in disbelief, dropping onto his throne. Not even Inyana? Cedrion shakes his head. Your queen was the last to fall. She refused to surrender even at the very end. Marduk's eyes fill with tears. Yes, that is just like her. Too stubborn to know when to quit. She took many of the humans down single-handedly. She was a fierce warrior, just as she had always claimed, Cedrion says. The king's eldest, Prince Edier, speaks up, eyeing the Yazata with suspicion. How would you know how well my mother fought, unless you saw it for yourself? We did see her fight, Gadriel interrupts, annoyed at being questioned. We witnessed the final blows land and the last of her forces fall behind her. The human mages were able to overcome most of your army, but Inyana alone was able to fight them evenly. In the end, she just could not overcome their numbers advantage. Funny, Edior says. If you were there, why did you not assist? Were the humans too much for even the mighty Yazata to handle? Edior! Marduk shouts. Gadriel balls his fists in anger, grinding his teeth together. Insolent whelp! How dare you speak to me like that? It's okay, Cedrion says, touching Gadriel's shoulder. He is just trying to make sense of a senseless tragedy. You cannot blame him for that. So then, what is your answer? Edior demands. Why did you not assist my mother and uncle in battle? Had you joined, there would have been no way the humans could have prevailed. It is true, Cedrion says. Had we entered the battle, none of the humans would have survived. They had several powerful warriors and gifted mages, but none were anything even comparable to us. You're not making matters any more clear, Marduk says, his own confusion growing. We are wanted criminals. We can provide you with strategic aid. If we were to draw our swords and fight, our enemies would sense us and come for our heads. In the end, we must choose our own preservation above all else, Cedrion says. You let my mother die because you were scared? Edior whispers. We were not scared, Gadriel shouts, raising a hand to strike the young prince. Cedrion grabs his wrist, glaring at his subordinate. The choirs of the Yazata are relentless. They care nothing about who is caught in their wake. Even if we had acted and drawn them in, your mother still would have been caught in the middle of our battle and killed. If two Yazata fight unrestrained, the devastation would exceed the destruction of multiple cities in magnitude. Everyone would have perished, Cedrion says. But everyone did die, Edior says. What difference would it have made? We gained valuable data for any future attacks on the humans. Next time, they will not have the same advantages, Cedrion says. Next time? Marduk whispers. You cannot be serious. After all we have lost, you would expect us to try again? You do not seek revenge for your queen's death and the decimation of your army? You said it yourself, my army was decimated. We no longer have the means to attack anyone. If we do not do something drastic soon, word will reach the other regions of our weakness, and Nahrain will be under attack, Marduk says. Begin rebuilding your forces immediately, Cedrion says. I have no intention of working with the warlords of the west or south. Only the Lord of the East will refrain from attack. There are only ally among the other regions, Marduk says. Do not let your guard down, even around the Eastern Lord, Gadriel warns. The allure of power often overwrites any illusions of loyalty or friendship. I'm not sure what can be done to replace what we have lost, Marduk says. There are not another 10,000 soldiers sitting around to be able to fill the void left by our defeat. No one among all of Averno can compare to Inyana and her generals in battle. That needs to change. We will begin training straight away. Select the best candidates to become your new generals, and send them to us, Cedrion says. We will have your new generals as strong as Hui and Yamura in a short time. Marduk dismisses the war council, wanting to be alone to grieve. The king sits on his throne, head in his hands, weeping for the loss of his queen. Despite all of the evils he has done, Marduk cares deeply for Inyana and their children. Losing her to the humans has left a painful hole in his heart that he knows will never heal. The Sakari mate for life, and his mate is gone, never to return. He curses the humans and vows that one day he will pay them back for the pain they have caused him, whether through his own hands or those of his descendants. The blood of Marduk will have its revenge for all those who died at Katal-Takuk. Outside the royal chambers, Edior stops his personal attendants. Apart from those my father selects to become his new generals, find warriors that would be loyal unto death to me. Are you wishing to form your own personal guard? One of the attendants asks. Edior nods. In a way, I am going to create a unit with the sole purpose of killing Cedrion and Gadriel. The attendants are both in shock. My prince? I still do not believe their account of the invasion. Too many details do not line up. I refuse to believe both my mother and Ymura could be felled in battle with humans. Can anyone train enough to surpass the Yazata? No one in Narain, Edior says. That is why one of you will be traveling north to the Sabati tribe. There, you will seek out the one called Ashkelon. He was the teacher of my uncle, and only he is strong enough to defeat one of the Yazata. Earth, Kishar Realm, Lake Arpa. Title's boat reaches the shore, and Enkidu leaps out before it even comes to a full stop. Title ties the boat off to some rocks, so that it doesn't float away and leave them stranded with the less than personable Yazata. Zyle is anything but friendly, and Title wonders often why the creature has not killed him yet. The Yazata has no fondness for humans, and seems to utterly detest them as a species. For many years he served as a Seraphim officer in the 11th Choir, carrying out many unsavory duties that other Yazata would consider evil. Members of the 11th Choir have a different moral code than the other Yazata, known as the Vanir. They're expected to do whatever is required of them for the greater good, whether it be assassination or purging elements from moral populations, to the hunting down and eradication of false gods and hybrid creatures such as the Nephilim and Cambions. Removing himself from the Anshar realm, Zyle has hidden his presence from the other Yazata in order to live a life of seclusion. Upon landing, Title announces their arrival on the island. Lord Zyle, I apologize for intruding like this, but I have a visitor that demands your audience. I do not entertain visitors, Zyle growls from inside his hut. You already know this, human. Apologies, Lord of the Lake, but this man is very insistent upon meeting you. I do not care how insistent he is. There are no exceptions. I do not deal with humans. We had an understanding, River Rat. Remove the dam and return this lake to its original state, Enkidu demands. Zyle ignores him, speaking only to Title directly. If you do not remove this human and remove yourself from my island, I will kill you both. He wields a Yazatan sword, Title speaks up. He hopes this will change Zyle's stance, as it is something very uncommon. The weapons of Yazatan warriors are rare and reserved only for them. The thought that a human has one of their swords in his possession should be very troublesome to a Yazata. This news grabs Zyle's attention, and he emerges from his hut. Who are you, and why do you have the blade of my brethren? Did you steal that sword? Zyle looks the man up and down, studying him carefully. He is strongly built, and carries about him the air of a real warrior. I do not listen to the requests of a human. He turns his back on them. Now lay your stolen sword on the ground, and leave my island before I kill you. This sword was my birthright. I was given this blade by my father, and he from his, and so forth for generations, Enkidu says. And I made no request. I am telling you, return the waters of Arpa to the people, or else. Zyle scoffs, disgusted by humanity. A whole family of thieves, then. He turns back around, staring at Tiavan. You are a bold one. Whatever shithole town you come from, you might be pretty tough. But you are completely beneath my notice. I will not leave, Enkidu says. So if you want me gone, you'll either meet my demands, or attempt to remove me by force." Zyle chuckles to himself. "Did you say attempt to remove you? You are brazen indeed. I suppose I have no choice other than to put you in your place. Arrogance is a trait unfit for a lowly creature such as yourself. You humans have nothing to be proud of." He draws his sword with a tremendous release of energy. The intense spiritual pressure generated by the weapon forces Tidal to the ground, unable to lift his head at all. Enkidu grins, holding his own sword out in defiance. "My sword is yearning for this. I can feel it begging me to fight. I have not felt this reaction in my hands before." Tiavon did not react like this when fighting the Sakari. It seems as though it desires to fight you not out of duty, but for something else. "You should not be able to even stand in my presence after drawing my sword," Zyle mutters. "You are a unique creature among the humans, but that is not enough for me to spare your life. You have bothered me, and I do not like to be bothered. That offense will be your last." "I'm not frightened by your threats," Enkidu says defiantly. "I know that a Yazata should exemplify honor and grace. You have none of these qualities." Zyle becomes annoyed. "What would you know about the Yazata? Just because you have a stolen Yazata sword does not make you an authority on anything. My great-grandfather was a Yazata." Tidal nearly chokes in surprise. "A Nephilim?" Zyle is quiet, thinking carefully. "I do not believe you. My brethren were prohibited from taking human mates many centuries ago. Allow the resonance of my blade to speak to my heritage," Enkidu challenges, holding out Tiavon. "But when you have been defeated, return this lake to its original state." "Your arrogance is astounding," Zyle says, irritated. Enkidu slashes past Zyle, blocking his path with a brief wave of energy. The Yazata stops, intrigued. "You are more skilled than I gave you credit for, but that does not put you on my level. Do you know what I am?" "You are a pathetic excuse for a Yazata," Enkidu growls. "Likely, you are one of those coward deserter Grigori." Zyle balls his fists in anger. "Do not act as if you know anything. Our fall was much more complicated than that. If you knew what I went through, you would not be calling me a coward. A noble warrior would not be hiding on an island and stealing water from the surrounding lands," Enkidu says. "If you wish for your death at my hands so badly, then so be it," Zyle says. "I will kill you and reclaim that sword to where it rightfully belongs. No human should ever touch a Yazatan sword and taint its purity with your mortal infection." "I shall also kill you," Zyle says to Tidal. "You brought this thief onto my island and have insulted me. I will sink your corpse into the lake to feed the fish and the crustaceans." Enkidu recognizes the seal engraved on the sword's hilt differs from his own. On Zyle's weapon are two measuring scales separated by a sword, indicating he was once a member of the 11th Choir, while the faded insignia on his own sword is that of a flower with 9 petals. Launching himself forward, Enkidu brings his sword down in an overhead slash that forces the Yazata down to a knee. Surprised, Zyle retaliates more aggressively and knocks Enkidu to his back with the concussion force alone of his swing. Rolling to his feet, Enkidu does not allow himself to become discouraged and mounts another offensive. The two Yazatan blades collide repeatedly, crackles of energy flashing outwards like stray bolts of lightning. Zyle is impressed that Enkidu is able to defend against his attacks. "Maybe you really do have some Yazatan blood in you." "I told you that already," Enkidu growls. "So how about you stop looking down on me and fight me as an equal?" "As an equal?" Zyle quickly slashes his sword beside Enkidu's head and parts the waters of Lake Arpa as far as the eye can see. Do you think that you could have survived that? Enkidu trembles, trying to steady his hands and stop them from shaking. As I thought, Zyle says, sheathing his sword once more. You are all talk. Enkidu manages to shake off his fear and slashes Tiavan horizontally at Zyle. The Yazata blocks with the hilt of his sword, causing electricity-like sparkles of energy to dance all around them. Enkidu stumbles back, repelled by the force of their energy clashing. Is that all you have to offer? Zyle asks. I have not drawn my sword in nearly a century. Now that you have forced me to take up arms against you, it is insulting for you to perform this poorly against me. I wish to see a true opponent, worthy of making me draw my sword. Enkidu lunges for another slash, but Zyle drops his weapon and grabs him by the wrist of his sword hand, and the throat with his other. Enkidu kicks outward, trying to break Zyle's grip. Yazata holds on tightly, refusing to let go. Brahmastra! Enkidu coughs, focusing his ultimate attack into his free hand. Zyle can feel a sharp rising of spiritual pressure, resonating from within the human. Waves of heat travel up his arm, and the Yazata is surprised to feel a slight burning pain from his flesh. This ability, Zyle thinks. It converts ill will and evil intentions to a damaging attack. All of the human lives I have taken, I can feel each of them being burned out of my flesh as payment. How could he have learned such a powerful and specialized technique? This man is the ideal warrior for fighting against the forces of darkness. Could he really be a descendant of one of my brethren? Am I the one in the wrong here? His attacks affect evil, and it is causing me pain. Is this my judgment? Has God sent this human here to kill me? As the discomfort grows, Zyle is forced to release Enkidu. As soon as he is freed, Enkidu slashes out repeatedly with his sword. Zyle recovers immediately, defending each strike with his scabbard. The Yazata pivots, elbowing Enkidu across the face. Enkidu flips in the air to slow his momentum and lands in the canoe, before leaping back into Zyle with a head-level slash. The Yazata raises an arm, Enkidu's sword unable to break the skin and draw blood. Enkidu's eyes widen in horror. He defended without his sheath. Can I not cut him? Is the difference in power between us truly that significant? Zyle's arm is undamaged, and Enkidu leaps back in panic. You have not committed yourself to this battle. Without complete resolve and murderous intent, you will never draw my blood. Brahmastra seemed to harm him, Enkidu thinks. If I can get a good enough opening, maybe I can use that technique to take him down. Lichtfiel Versiegel, sealing arrows of light, Zyle says, holding a hand up into the air and causing dozens of shining arrows to rain down. Enkidu leaps back in evasion, arrows piercing the ground all around him. Enkidu suddenly stops, unable to move. He sees that one of the arrows has pierced his right leg. The man feels no pain, but finds that his leg has been paralyzed. Zyle holds his sword out towards Enkidu, steel in its sheath. You understand that once I draw my sword, you're dead, do you not? Enkidu grips Tiavan defiantly. No outcome is ever assured in battle. Only a weakling would believe such a fantasy, Zyle says. One with power knows the outcome before a battle even begins. We humans have never had the power, yet we fight and survive, Enkidu says. Maybe that is why we endure. We have to fight even harder, because we were not blessed with that divine strength. I cannot deny that you have an exceptionally strong will, but grit alone does not a battle win. I have thousands of years of combat experience over you. Enkidu slashes his sword down through the light arrow, piercing his leg, and leaps at Zyle without warning. Instinctively, Zyle draws his sword to defend against the blow. The two strain against each other, neither giving any ground. How? Thinks Zyle in disbelief. How did he force my body to react like that? Without thinking, my arm drew Ishin to defend against his swing. Was his attack really that powerful that I needed to draw my blade? Did my body overreact? The two blades clash repeatedly before Zyle is able to repel Enkidu and knock the man back with his greater strength. More light arrows materialize in the air around Zyle, and Enkidu grips his blade tightly in preparation. Licht viel! Versiegel! Zyle shouts, firing the arrows at Enkidu. Enkidu parries each of the arrows with his sword, reducing each to particles of light. Zyle manifests twice as many light arrows around him. Without that sword, you would be dead already, Zyle shouts. My ancestors protect me through my blade, Enkidu says. Because I use Tiavan against evil, it is only strengthened by the adversity I face. Zyle fires the arrows, but again Enkidu is able to slice through each of them without being struck. Enkidu walks towards the Grigori, his previous fear all but gone. As the energy of Enkidu flickers from his body in lightning-like flashes, the light reflected off his blade causes Zyle to recall some ancient battle of his past. The Seraphim warrior walks towards Zyle, his body racked with bloody wounds. Crimson runs down his sword arm and along the length of his blade. One eye is swollen shut, and the other struggles to remain open. The warrior has fought fiercely, but against such powerful foes, he finds himself outnumbered and outmatched. Zyle himself is also wounded, but his injuries are far less severe. Behind him, the remainder of his unit stand at the ready awaiting orders. Lightning flashes around them, illuminating the bodies of their dead comrades. Soldiers felled on both sides of the conflict. Will you continue to cut down your friends? Your brothers? The enemy Yazata Onoel says. All because they stand for something different than you? Because they opposed you and your unit killing innocent humans? Because they opposed you slaughtering women and children? The lives you protect are not innocent, Zyle growls. Their lives became forfeit the moment their abominable souls were created. Yazatan blood is not meant to flow through mortal veins. The divine is forbidden to mix with the profane. We are not to allow for the birth of half-breed abominations. All who partake in these deplorable actions and the sinful spawn they create must be purged. The Creator has long decreed that the Nephilim are too dangerous to be allowed to exist. And you will blindly follow that edict? You're okay with murdering infants and mothers. People resisting you out of nothing but love for those they cherish do not deserve the end of a sword. They deserve to be protected. How have we fallen so far as to not be able to tell good from evil anymore? How can you even begin to still think that you're on the righteous side of this conflict? Onoel shouts. I am on God's side, Zyle growls. That is enough. If you do not agree, your life too must be extinguished. I am already prepared to die for what I believe, Onoel says, solemnly. He looks down at the bodies of his comrades that have already been killed by Zyle and his unit. Are you? Zyle's subordinates dash past him to attack Onoel without warning. The rogue Yazata takes a step forward, slashing through the gut of the first, and cuts upwards, hacking the second Yazata through the center of his body. The three remaining Yazata flank Onoel, manifesting arrows of light all around them. Licht viel! Versiegel! They shout, firing their arrows. Onoel leaps into the air above the attacks, the ground below him becoming a cloud of smoke and pulsating light. Zyle appears above him, slashing downward. The blow is devastating, severing Onoel's sword arm, and dropping him to the earth in a bloody heap. Slowly, the rogue reaches out for his sword, still gripped by his severed arm. Zyle steps on Onoel's hand, preventing him from grabbing his weapon. You are unworthy of ever touching that sword again, Grigori, Zyle shouts with disdain. You gave up your rights as a seraphim the moment you defied us to side with the traitors. Onoel begins to laugh, his teeth stained red with blood. You will one day see how much of a fool you truly are. Your blind loyalty will not last forever. It is not in our nature to not question unjust orders. We are to enforce righteousness and make sure all worlds thrive in the light of goodness. We must question orders that do not seem right. We were given free will for a reason. We are not mindless weapons like the Potestas or the Seraphs. We are not that different from the humans. We love and desire to hold on to what we see as deserving of our protection. Zyle screams in rage, spittle flying from his lips. We will. Our only path is the one that God has set before us. We do not get to question his flawless logic. We do not know better than God. Who are we to question anything? That is a path that only those who wish to be purified by the fires of Gehenna take. That is your fate, traitor. Zyle plunges his sword down through Anol's back. The screams of women and children are heard around them, as the village Anol and his comrades were protecting has continued to be ravaged by Zyle's unit. Now all of the homes are consumed in flames. Captain Zyle, the last of the Nephilim have been rounded up, a Yazdan soldier says, reporting to a superior. Zyle nods. End this, he growls. Kill them all and make sure that not even their bones remain. I want no trace of these creatures left on this world. Human history requires all memory of the Nephilim wiped from their collective, if they are to advance in any way that is pleasing to God. Enkidu rushes Zyle, forcing him out of his memories. The two clash violently, and the Yazata is surprised that he has pushed back as Enkidu's power grows. This man, Zyle thinks. He is the reason why we were ordered to exterminate the half-breeds. I grew weary of all the death, and I withdrew from my own kind. But now I see the end result, what the Nephilim would eventually spawn if left to persist. His power is staggering for a human. He is far stronger than he should ever be. No mortal should ever be able to challenge us in combat. Despite this, how is he not a monster? This man has not been corrupted by his power. No, it is the opposite. He fights with righteousness. This descendant of the Nephilim does more of God's will than me, even though I was tasked with wiping out their impurity over 1,000 years ago by him. Enkidu pushes Zyle back, and his sword begins to glow with a flashing white light. Alkite, Alehuria, he screams, sending a crescent of energy at Zyle. Zyle parries the attack, knocking it into the distance with a backswing. The Yazata stares at his hands in disbelief, as they've now grown numb. He controls that sword's power, and commands it like a true Seraphim warrior. Were we wrong? Was God wrong? Could there have been a gray area? Can the Nephilim just as easily be good or evil like any other human, without any kind of genetic disposition towards one or the other? Are they not automatically corrupted at conception? Did God himself change his mind? Has he personally blessed this man and given him a true divine path? How else could he have survived? I know we were thorough. My unit and I killed every last one of the Nephilim and their families. He should not exist. Is this how you truly wish to die? Zyle asks, holding out his sword. If so, I shall not deny you this death. Being cut down by the superior warrior is nothing to be ashamed of. You fought hard for a human. Enkidu grinds his teeth together in anger and frustration. For a human, you say? He forces himself to stand back up and hold Tiavan out in front of him. Do not cast me aside so easily, just because I am human. You should learn not to underestimate mankind. Why should I view you as anything more than a talented animal? Zyle growls. You have done nothing to demonstrate to me otherwise. You own a Yazdan sword and claim to be of our blood, but you do not know how to wield that sword, or draw upon the power of your ancestors. Without these things, a sword and bloodline mean nothing. The only thing that truly matters is power, and you have none. Enkidu rushes Zyle again, their swords clashing with a brilliant display of released energy. The waters of Lake Arpa churn violently. Tidal cowers in fear beside Zyle's hut. The sky darkens and thunderclouds grow to enormous sizes, exploding with flashes of lightning. With each impact of their swords, both fighters can feel a strange resonance vibrating between the weapons. Our swords, Zyle whispers. They are speaking to each other. Blue electricity-like energy crackles from Enkidu's body as he continues to slash at the Yazata. As the man presses his attack, Zyle is surprised that Enkidu's strength seems to be growing as the battle progresses. The lightning flashing from the sky is drawn into their swords, rather than to the ground. Each flash of lightning fills the blades with energy, and the entire island quakes violently. As Enkidu's next attack manages to knock Zyle's defending arm down, the Yazata is caught by surprise from an elbow to the face. Zyle stumbles back, blood running down from his nostrils. He reaches up, touching the wetness with disbelief. You drew blood, Zyle whispers. No human has ever wounded me. This is unthinkable. Enkidu's chest heaves, and he merely stares at the Yazata, growling with rage. It's clear that the only thing the man is able to focus on now is raw combat. Enkidu's fighting instincts have overtaken his rational thought. Without being slowed by thinking and only reacting through instinct, Enkidu's attacks are faster and more fierce. I see now that trying to fight you with my power sealed was foolish and prideful of me, Zyle admits. I've been unchallenged for so long I had forgotten what true combat was. I will honor your fighting spirit, human, with my full and unrestricted strength. This will be over in a moment, but be satisfied knowing that it required it coming to this to kill you. Enkidu's sword begins to glow with a bright blue color, and he raises it over his head, drawing the ire of all the lightning from the storms above. Brahmastraka Dushtka Nirnai. What? Zyle is barely able to form the words before Enkidu slashes Tiavan and sends an enormous bolt of energy towards him. The lightning mixed with Enkidu's energy is so large that Zyle can see nothing else but the attack. All of the water of Arpa raises into the sky upon impact, and all sound and motion stops for an instant. Zyle meets the blast with his own sword, but finds that he is unable to hold it at bay, and is slowly pushed backwards. Flashes of lightning-like energy leap from the blast in all directions, tearing open the Yazata's flesh in multiple places. His power is evolving the longer we fight. Somehow, fighting me is awakening the dormant Yazatan blood within him. This man is the real thing. He's a true Nephilim. Creatures like him are the reasons we were forbidden from mating with the humans. Their power is too unpredictable. Their power has no limitation. He will only continue to grow in strength until the day he dies. To think, while I hid away on this island in my hut, one like him was out there beneath my notice. Zyle screams at the top of his lungs, releasing all of his energy outward. Massive wings of white light expand from his back, and a shining halo of golden light radiates from his head like divine fire. With the full release of his power, Zyle is able to use his sword to hurl Enkidu's attack above him and into the atmosphere. The Yazata drops to a knee exhausted. It took everything I had just to block that attack. This man is incredible. How much stronger could he grow if we continued to battle? Would he end up surpassing me? Would he be able to take my life? Enkidu is still in the follow-through pose of his swing, but it becomes clear that he is barely conscious. Tiavan's tip buried into the earth is the only thing that is keeping the man on his feet. Enkidu's expression is slack, and his eyes stare into a space beyond even Zyle. He stares into the darkness, unaware if the battle is over or is concluded. All of Enkidu's comprehension has temporarily left him. Seeing his opponent at his limit, Zyle sheathes his sword. Leave, the Grigori says. I do not wish to kill you, but it is clear that you cannot defeat me. Not this time. You grew tremendously in our battle, and your sword learned much from mine. Your blood is not yet fully awakened. You still have more potential to unlock, but that will not be happening today. You are at your limit. You do not have the stamina remaining to continue this fight. I still draw breath, Enkidu growls. That alone proves that you are not yet victorious. I am not yet victorious, because I have not pushed for that victory, Zyle says. Do not think that I am unable to kill you. I am choosing to spare you. This is not a lack of ability. You have great potential that I do not wish to see snuffed out just yet. I am curious to see how much stronger you can become in time. I do not have the luxury of waiting to come back and fight you again, Enkidu growls, trying desperately to find the strength to continue battling. He is unable. It takes everything he has to remain conscious. He is completely at Zyle's mercy. Your existence is obviously for a reason. The Nephilim were supposed to be exterminated, and my brethren were stripped of their ability to procreate. Somehow, your ancestor was spared this punishment, and you were born. There are powers at work far beyond me. I shall not be the one to interfere with those higher plans. The people of this region will continue to suffer without the natural course of the rivers. I shall not leave until you return Arpa to normal. Your great-grandfather, do you know his name? Enkidu shakes his head. I do not. I am the son of Som, and grandson of Bithan. That is all I know. Hoyle's never told me what my ancestor's name was, only that he was a proud Seraphim warrior that died fighting for those he loved and what he believed in. Zyle is silent in thought for a moment. Fighting for those he loved. Do you mean the humans? He chuckles to himself. What a fool. To think that after all the trouble caused by the creation of the Nephilim, that there would be others to still fall in love with humanity. We have our flaws, but you are a perfect example of how the Yazata themselves are not perfect beings, Enkidu growls. The evil that you have committed here is as grave as any born of human greed and selfishness. Maybe you are right, Enkidu, Zyle whispers. Maybe I have fallen farther than my brethren, so far that I have lost sight of that which is meant to be sacred and important. I have not only lost my honor, but I have lost my purpose. Existing for the sake of existing is no life to live. A life needs purpose. With nothing to cut, a sword dulls. There are plenty of things to cut. You just have to protect that which is important, Enkidu says. Zyle thinks over this deeply. What you seek to protect may not be the same as I. Are you prepared to cut me down for that difference? If it means saving the lives of innocent people affected by your actions, then yes, Enkidu says, holding Tiavan out towards Zyle. This seems to satisfy the Yazata and causes him to smile. You lack the power to truly test my blade, but your resolve is enough to light the fire of any sleeping sword. Zyle raises a hand, releasing a pulse of energy that destroys the artificial dam. Seek me out again when you have become stronger, Enkidu, descendant of the unnamed Seraphim of the Ninth Choir. Enkidu looks down at Tiavan. Engraved on the hilt of his sword is the flower with 9 petals, each of an equal length. The seal. Is that what it means? Zyle nods. The owner of that sword belonged to the Ninth Choir. Whether you came through it by lineage or thievery, you must wield your blade with pride. I have great pride in both my sword and my heritage. Perhaps you are meant to be the true inheritor of the Yazata. In our zealousness, maybe we were too blinded by the mission, and lost sight of the things that our blades were meant to represent. At some point, we stopped being protectors and became nothing more than bloodthirsty soldiers. Zyle pauses, reflecting on his past actions with regret. When I was a Seraphim, I led my team on many extermination missions. Our duty was to eradicate all traces of the Nephilim from this world. We killed many women and children. We killed our own brothers. Why are you telling me this? Maybe I just needed someone to listen, Zyle shrugs. I've been carrying this burden for far too long. I do not know how your ancestor managed to survive, but after meeting you, I am glad that he slipped through my notice. Had I done my job perfectly, he would not have lived to carry on your lineage. I believe that I was destined to meet you, Enkidu, and I believe that we will meet again. You removed the dam from the lake, Enkidu says. I believe that you can still change. You do not have to continue being the killer you once were. You abandoned the other Yazata, but maybe for once it was for the right reasons. Zyle retrieves a skin of water from his hut. Take this. Think of it as reparation for the suffering I put those like your ancestor through. What is this? Enkidu asks, looking at the water skin. Is this just water? It is divine water, Zyle replies. Whatever drinks of this water will grow stronger very quickly. I have no intention of taking a shortcut like that to become stronger, Enkidu says. Zyle smiles. I assumed you would say that. Use the water on seedlings, and you will not have to wait a full season for the crops to mature. You will be able to hold off starvation for your people. Enkidu's eyes widen in surprise. Are you serious? This water can really do that? Zyle nods. Yazatan magic is capable of great many things. Maybe someday you will learn more of that yourself. I have never been very adept at magic. Neither the priest nor Master Hoyles have been able to break that failing. This Master Hoyles, is he as strong as you? I do not know, Enkidu admits. He knows much, but I do not know if he is a warrior. He calls himself a watcher. He is one of the Hashmalim. Hashmalim? Zyle whispers. Your master is also a Yazata? Enkidu nods. Master Hoyles taught me most of what I know. He has watched over my family for generations. He trained my father Psalm as well. Zyle begins to laugh. You are very special indeed. Descendant of the Nephilim, wielding a Yazatan sword and trained by a Hashmalim watcher. You must be destined for great things. I do not know about all that. I'm not worried about fame or glory. I wish only to protect those I care about and keep evil from exploiting the innocent. That is a noble cause, but it may be one that is too difficult for you alone to maintain. The humans of this world increasingly turn away from God and towards evil. I'm sure you have noticed the rise of many false gods of late. Enkidu nods. It is troubling, but I have faith that the tide can be turned back towards the Creator and righteousness. I hope you are right, but I am less optimistic. Some of the false gods are gaining power quickly as their followers increase. The more popular they become, so too does their strength rise. Such is the nature of prayer and worship. You said that my sword belonged to a member of the Ninth Choir, because of the symbol on it, but your seal is different than mine. What does yours indicate? Zyle looks down at his own sword, seemingly lost in thought. Engraved upon the hilt is a set of scales separated by a sword. I was a member of the 11th Choir, but that was a long time ago. Now go, Enkidu. Return to your city and use your divine water to grow strong crops and feed those you love. With your sword, keep them safe. Train hard, and increase your prowess every day. When you think you are ready, return here and fight me again. I want to fight you when we are both at full strength. Enkidu nods and departs for the shore. Divine water in tow. With this gift, he will be able to return to Kataltakuk, feeling better about the aid he has secured. With the priestesses of Fi and the divine water, the crops of Kataltakuk will flourish. As Enkidu returns to the canoe, Tidal lunges at him in rage. You have ruined everything! The riverman attacks with his dagger, but his speed is nothing compared to Enkidu's, and he is cut down with a single swing. Title's body collapses on the shore, quickly sinking several inches into the mud. Enkidu looks back at Zyle to gauge his response. The Yazata turns his back without a word, returning to his hut. What happened? Tarvin asks, running up to Enkidu as he returns to the shore. I convinced the Lord of the Lake to remove the dam and restore Lake Arpa to its original state. Tarvin's eyes widen in surprise. How did you manage that? He looks around to see that the shady hermit that ferried Enkidu to the island is nowhere to be seen. What happened to the other guy? Tidal was an unsavory man and did not accept that his stranglehold over Lake Arpa has come to an end. He wished to continue to hold power over Tug and the surrounding areas. With their water returned to them, he lost all of his leverage over the people. Tarvin hesitates before saying anything else. You killed him? Enkidu nods. I did not intend to take that wretched man's life, but he drew on me first. He was far too pitiful for my blade to ever enjoy such a deed. Tidal was long consumed by his own hatred and misery. In reality, he was dead many years ago already. If you say so, Tarvin mutters. He still does not understand many of Enkidu's sayings and philosophical musings. That hermit did seem untrustworthy, though. Tarvin thinks it probably best he was not left alive. If Tidal was angry at Enkidu for undamming the lake, he likely would have pursued them for revenge. In time, the rivers will be back to normal. The people of Tug will have full access to their water, and all of the surrounding communities will recover. We can use this as a bargaining point in petitioning aid from Tug, Tarvin says. We have done their city a great deed. They owe us. Enkidu frowns. It seems wrong to ask for compensation for doing what is right. That is your moral dilemma. The rest of Katal is not burdened by the same reservations. They're counting on us, and we must do everything we can to bring back all the aid we can. Enkidu nods. You are right. He smiles. I see now why your father was so adamant for me to bring you along. You do have a way about you that changes the feelings and opinions with your words. Maybe becoming a village leader is in your future. Tarvin laughs. Do not wish such horrible things on me. That is my father's life, not mine. Then what dreams do you have for your own future? Tarvin pauses, having never thought that deeply about his future before. I would like to travel. I am really enjoying seeing all of the different regions and cities. This journey has been an awakening for me. Taking in all there is to see and experience in this world can be a bit overwhelming. You must never lose sight of who you are and where you come from. The strange customs of other cities may be exotic and enticing, but you must make sure that you are never consumed by them. One day you may find yourself never wanting to leave that place, and abandoning your home and people altogether. I will never know if that is what I want until I live those experiences for myself, now will I? Enkidu sighs loudly. He is not in the mood to deal with Tarvin's stubbornness. He still believes he will be able to get through to the young man and impart his wisdom before the end of their journey together. But Tarvin has many views that are just drastically different from Enkidu's, and he is unsure if they will ever change. Have you filled our skins? Enkidu asks, taking the reins of his horse. Because Arpa was dammed for so long, I do not believe we will find much in the way of fresh water from here to Tug. The city itself has been desperate for water, and will not part with it easily, especially to travelers. There are bodies decaying in that water, Tarvin repeats, horrified. We cannot drink that. Enkidu sighs, kneeling to fill his own skins. Fish live and die all within these waters. The raccoons come to hunt frogs and leave their entrails upon the shore. Rains wash those guts down into the waters. Animals caught in floodwaters drown within them and sink deep into the mud. Death is around us at all times and in every drink we take. Since you put it that way, Tarvin says, filling his skins before they return to their journey, but no less disturbed by the thoughts of what lies beneath the surface of the water. He sees that Enkidu has not filled one of the skins. What about that one? Enkidu looks down at the skin given to him by Zyle. This water is not for drinking. The contents of this skin were blessed, and must be saved for the seedlings that we plant once we return to Katal to cook. Blessed water? Tarvin gives Enkidu a puzzled look. Are you serious? Enkidu nods. The Yazata I met at the center of the lake says that this water is sacred and will empower anything that drinks from it. They will immediately grow many times stronger. And you are not tempted to drink it yourself? Not at all, Enkidu says firmly. One must not seek shortcuts to gain strength. Power is not the only thing that matters. Without the experiences that come from training and battling strong opponents, one loses most of what it means to be a warrior. All of the subtleties of battle cannot be learned through magic. In the wrong hands, that water is dangerous, Tarvin says. I would keep that skin close to you at all times. Not everyone will share your noble approach to strength. Enkidu looks down at the skin once more and pulls it closer. Yes, you are probably right. I must not risk this sacred water being used for evil. Our people are depending on the crops that will thrive from the nourishment of this water. Then we must hope that the people of Tug are not so desperate for water that rather than being able to wait for things to return to normal, they will attack us for what we have, Tarvin says. Enkidu too fears that scenario. In a desperate situation like that, no one wins. Having to defend himself against people who are only thirsty would fill Enkidu with sorrow. Let us return to our path, Enkidu says. We have a lot of ground to cover before we reach Tug. I would not like to be caught out here in the marshlands at nightfall. There's no telling what foul beasts lurk in the darkness around here. Tarvin feels a slight shiver run up his spine. Foul beasts? Do you mean like more lions? Not likely, not out here, Enkidu replies. In wetlands, the highest level predators are generally reptilian in nature. We should be careful not to be caught unaware by any crocodiles or serpents. Tarvin skittishly looks around in all directions. He is unable to see below the surface of the muddy water anywhere. Is that all we should be on the lookout for? Not unless Tadalik lurk about, Enkidu says, leading his horse through the waist-deep waters. Tadalik? Tarvin whispers nervously. What is that? Man-sized frogs, Enkidu replies nonchalantly. They have a taste for flesh, but do not have teeth. They swallow their prey whole. You're messing with me, right? Tarvin whispers. Right? As Enkidu and Tarvin wade through the marshlands at the edge of the flooded Lake Arpa, the Gregorius Zyle sits alone in his hut. Zyle is lost in his thoughts, thinking deeply of his fateful encounter with Enkidu and of his own dark past. For centuries, he led his unit forward, killing any humans born of Yazatan coupling. Not only did they kill the offspring of Yazata and humans, but both parents were also put to the sword. Fraternizing with mortals was punishable by death to all parties involved. Zyle took this duty seriously, but after meeting Enkidu and seeing the man's steadfast faith, he wonders how many great men of renown he prevented from ever growing up to achieve their potential. I made sure that no one like you could ever exist, Zyle thinks. But now that I know about you, I refuse to ever return to that path. Even if the armies of Anshar come down here and order me to kill you, I will not. I know now that you must live on. For the good of all mankind, you must thrive.